Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Asian Seller Podcast. I'm your host, Meghla Bharadwaj, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about how overseas Amazon and e-commerce sellers can set up companies in Singapore and how local Amazon sellers over here can manage their taxes and set up their companies. And to talk about this very, very important topic, I have with me Eric Yeo, who's a chartered accountant here in Singapore. Hey, Eric, how's it going?
Hi, everyone. I'm good. I'm good. And
Great.
yeah,
Yeah, thanks a lot for
uh,
joining me, Eric. I think this is such an important topic. Everybody really
okay,
talks about Hong Kong and Singapore, and is Singapore really a tax haven, and what are the benefits of setting up companies in Singapore and things like that. So I'm really excited about
okay,
all of our discussion today. But before we go into all of that, why don't you give us a little bit of your background? Tell us your story and how did you start this entire company?
okay. I think I'm also like you guys, entrepreneur. I guess got tired of a 9 to 5 job. Was working in PwC, my last my last job, 10 years as an accountant auditor, and uh, and decided to just just really start a company and do something I like. Um, and since then, I never looked back. So currently, we have 3 offices in Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia, and an upcoming one in Hong Kong. Uh, and I really do enjoy my work, talking to fellows entrepreneur, helping them to set it up.
Yeah. So your company is Paul Hype and Page, right?
Yes.
That's the company name. And of course, you've helped me set up my company here. And
Sure.
you're going to help me do all of the taxes and everything, which I really dread. But yeah, I mean, I was so impressed by the way that that everything is organized in your company. It's just so efficient. The advice was given in such an effective way. And all of my questions were answered, very effectively. So I was like super, super happy with the entire process. And I've actually been recommending your company to other entrepreneurs as well. And so I thought it'd be a good way to, introduce your services to other people. You might be able to help them. Okay, so let's talk about, so there are a lot of Amazon and e-commerce sellers overseas. They're in the US, Australia, and they want to set up companies, let's say in Singapore. So first of all, what are the benefits of setting up a company here?
I think number one, to set a company in Singapore, which especially for Amazon seller, is the reputable company jurisdiction of Singapore.
Mhm.
So it gives you a trustworthy. The banking system is good. Singapore Bank, you can basically do any business with anyone. Those are the great benefits. And overall, you will not be deemed as someone who's trying to escape tax, although the tax is low. And the most important thing I think is that your bank will not be suddenly closed down without notice and etc., which experienced by certain jurisdiction because
Okay.
they're clamping down on like for example BVI. Uh, those are the Mauritius, which could be higher risk deemed as by the government around the world. So the banks are also wary and they could do something drastic, especially there's a common reporting standards. And so choosing the right jurisdiction really helps for Amazon, especially for US market, especially for US people or citizen.
Right.
I think that's something they have to be really careful.
Yeah. Also, Australia. I know that a lot of Australian sellers also set up companies here. Is that correct?
I think yes. I think number
Yeah.
one is because it's much lower tax rates at about the first 100,000 is tax free. The
Mhm.
next 200,000 is about 8.5. The broad rate is 17. So effectively, you don't much pay much tax after your personal one.
Yeah.
And yeah, and Australia is near to Singapore. I think that's also one
Yeah.
key factors.
So would you say that Singapore is, like a tax haven? And, why do you think taxes are lower over here, like corporate taxes? Why are they much lower than
I
other
think
countries?
I think I'll address the two things first. Number one
Yeah.
is Singapore a tax haven? I think haven will be something like heaven or tax free, totally tax free.
Yeah.
But I guess it's not a reputation that you want, because it'll be like tax evasion, that you don't pay tax totally at all, and etc. So in a nutshell, Singapore is not a tax haven. You pay lower tax at 17%. At least that's the broad rate, which is not the lowest in the world, even in Europe. So in Europe, Ireland, where all the Starbucks is and etc., HQ, their company tax is only 12.5.
Okay.
So you'll be surprised. Maybe in Luxembourg is even lower,
Mm.
or Netherlands. So in a nutshell, Singapore is not a tax haven. We are responsible, because if we don't charge any tax at all, then I think the other jurisdiction, especially Australia, will not be happy. And then coming back to the other questions that you have, why corporate tax is much lower in Singapore? I went through a survey, or SMU survey. There's an interesting survey recently conducted by the business school of the university. I guess our corporate tax, 90% comes from the international firms that is in Singapore.
Okay, so the MNCs.
Yeah, the MMC. So about 90% of our corporate tax revenue comes from that side. So having said that, Singapore tax office is able to lower down the tax for the smaller players, because the first 100,000 is tax free, and then the next 200,000 is 8.5. Anything above 300,000, then you use the broad rate of 17. So in that sense, it gives smaller players like us, or SMEs, Amazon, reseller, or individual businessmen, a good platform to start their business.
Mm.
Yeah, because most of the tax is from MMC in Singapore.
Okay, that makes sense. So what are the kinds of companies that you are seeing, that set up companies here? Like, what are the types of businesses that are setting up companies in Singapore, from overseas? Do you see a lot of e-commerce sellers, or are there other kinds of businesses as well?
I guess from my own experience and living in Singapore and doing many jurisdiction elsewhere, Singapore I think will be more service orientated,
Okay.
IT, technology, service orientated, online. You will not see much hardware, or when I say hardware, like manufacturing, because those manufacturing firms or factories a big skill. I think number one, they won't come to me, and also the market and the labor cost doesn't really make sense to come to Singapore. You see them more in our office, in our Malaysia or Indonesia office, where labor cost is slightly lower and there's land for them to do. So over here is very much service orientated, IT orientated, plus international business. So meaning they could have manufacturing elsewhere. Here will be the trading hub where they do business throughout the world.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what are the requirements for, a foreigner to set up a company here in Singapore?
I think the basic requirement is, for a foreigner, you just have to remember. I think number one is you need a local director. A local director could be a citizen, a Singapore PR, a permanent resident visa holder, or an employment pass holder. So for all foreigners, who is Amazon or etc., as long as you have an employment pass, you are able to be the director of your own company. You do not need any locals.
Yeah.
And obviously an office address. So these are the two main requirements. And have an internet, because all our things have a laptop internet,
Yeah.
because all our system is online, payment is also online, just like Amazon. Yeah, that's how
Right.
you can basically set it up.
Yeah. And also dependent pass holders can also incorporate a company here?
Yes, I think dependent pass holder as well because they are usually at home. But I highly suggest that if they are dependent pass holder, um, which means that it's usually the spouse is working and they're here, their visa are not allowed them to work. So
Okay.
my judgment call, my call is just convert them to an employment pass. That's much easier.
Okay. So for people who don't have anyone over here to, hire as a local director, you offer those services, right? So you offer a local director for them. So how does that
Yes.
process work? Can you explain that a bit?
I guess these are very common. They need a local director, so we will provide them for the registration sake. And the next question, most probably, they will ask, do I need to pay the director salary?
Yeah.
Are they involved? So generally, no, you do not need to pay the director a fees. You pay them a fees to be the director, and
Mhm.
it's a yearly fees, and they do not know your bank account, as in they do not have access to your bank account, and usually you will still be the management. They are there for the statutory purposes. Yeah, those are while okay. So while they are on board as the director, to save costs and etc., we could help the business owner to get a visa. Hence, they can be the local director and do business here and stay here as well.
Okay. So let's say if somebody doesn't want to stay here in Singapore, but they just want to run the business, from overseas, but just have the company here. Do they need to visit Singapore to in order to incorporate the company?
In order to incorporate the company, you do not need at all.
Okay.
We have a special arrangement with selected banks, that they don't even need to be here to open their bank account.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big benefit for some of these Amazon sellers because I think opening a bank account in Hong Kong is getting more difficult now. And I've seen a
Yes.
lot of people who actually, maybe even live in China, they are having trouble opening bank accounts in Hong Kong.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you're saying that it's much easier to do that over here in Singapore.
Yes. I think
Okay.
one benefit is because we have a close working relationship with the banks.
Mm.
They trust our client. They trust us, so hence they trust our client as well, in to a certain extent.
Hmm.
So they give us a special privilege or etc. that the clients can do a Skype, can do a online interview rather than flying down all the way down.
Okay. Okay.
And we also have three jurisdictions, so you can open a Singapore with your Singapore company. You can open a Singapore bank account, Malaysia, Indonesia, and even Australia.
Okay.
Yep.
So, what are some of the differences between Hong Kong and Singapore? Setting up a company and doing business in Hong Kong and Singapore.
I guess because let's target specifically because it's most of the listener may be an online seller.
Yes.
Um, I think one main okay to start off. I think both are very similar
Mm.
countries, British law, and etc. etc. Advanced banking system, etc. I think one benefit is that for Singapore company, you do not need to do audit. You do not need to do audit, so that's really a plus point
Okay.
from a cost perspective. And not only that, but the daily, I think it takes out a lot of your time
Mm.
when you do audit. The auditor still have to ask you questions to sign off the audit. So that is the main cost actually to look at it.
Mhm.
But also from a tax perspective, Hong Kong have an advantage over Singapore. I would say that because inside their tax system by default, they have these rules that say any business outside of Hong Kong, it's foreign source and we do not tax on it.
Okay.
That's why many people around the world goes to Hong Kong
Right.
because no, you're not taxed on it. That's it. Full stop. Whereas Singapore, you have to be taxed somewhere else at 15% or more before before the Singapore company do not need to pay tax. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it looks like a very nice proposition. Hey, let's all go Hong Kong because we are in Australia, we are anywhere but Hong Kong. So any sales online in Hong Kong we pay tax. Anything outside we don't pay tax versus
Mm-hmm.
Singapore. But then I think everybody's forget about something because let's say, for example, if you live in Australia, just for example, if you live in Australia, if you do not pay Australia tax and you don't pay Hong Kong tax, so technically you don't pay tax.
Yeah.
Right, right. That sounds good, but Australian tax office have the rights to tax. The reason is very simple because I think the brain, the management of the company, it's really in Australia. It's really in Australia, and let's say the Australia tax office, because there will be intergovernment transferring of all these tax information nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So they find that hey, you don't pay any tax here nor there, and then you become a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Singapore take a more prudent approach. They say that you can choose, you can be a foreign source and I don't tax you totally, but prove to me that you're taxed somewhere else. So I think Singapore is slightly being a more responsible tax jurisdiction, I would say that. And so for people to choose between these two, it's very simple. Tax-free, higher risk of getting caught.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's for Hong Kong. Singapore side, you pay some tax, you're more safe. Because end of the day, wherever you live, if your local or the country that you're living say that, hey, why don't you pay any tax at all? It doesn't make sense. Yeah, I did pay something and somewhere, you
Right.
know. So it's safe. The more safe it is, you pay something. The more risky you are, it's fine.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about double taxation agreements? I mean, how can you tell us a little bit about how that works and how that benefits people who have set up a company in Singapore,
I
especially they're
think
from US?
US or okay. By the way, US do not have a full-fledged double tax agreement with us.
Okay.
Yeah, at the moment, we're always trying to get them signed.
Okay.
But in general, I think in general we will just use a general to start off. I think double tax agreement basically it's saying this: if you pay a tax in that country and you inform us, we will not tax you. There's a double tax, to make sure that you don't pay double tax. That's number one. And
Right.
then number two is because let's say we sign an agreement, so anything I'll give you a discount compared to people who doesn't. So a very common use of double taxation agreement is where, for example, let me think, like a dividend when the Singapore side dividend back to someone in Europe, for
Mm-hmm.
example. Okay, the withholding tax could be only 5% when there's an agreement. If there isn't an agreement, the withholding tax is usually 15% or more. So
Okay.
that's where all the double tax agreement comes about. I think that will be the simplest. So having, if you have a subsidiary or of a company in Singapore, and the monies wants to go back to the HQ, to the owners, so they have to give out dividends. So generally, if there's a withholding tax in any country, and we have a double tax agreement, maybe it's 5%. Whereas if you don't, then it's more, 15% or more. So that's where the double tax agreement come in place.
Okay. So which
Yeah.
countries does Singapore have a double taxation agreement with?
There's 60 over countries. I
Okay,
think the
quite a few.
prominent ones are, I can't pick out. We have Japan,
Okay,
Singapore, Malaysia, Singapore. Yeah. But for
okay,
the big market, US and Singapore, we are still have a restrictive ones, But there's other ways to mitigate it as well
okay,
properly. Yeah. So most of the time the double tax agreement is for, I would say, is for big companies, for certain size company. Yeah, that's the
okay,
truth.
okay. So let's also talk about local Singaporeans and PRs, because there are a lot of people in our community who want to start selling on Amazon, and maybe they have 9 to 5 jobs, and they want to incorporate a small company and be an entrepreneur. So what is the process for them to start a company, and do they really need to go via a company like yours, or can they directly incorporate a company?
They okay. Whoever is living in Singapore, if they are a Singapore citizen or permanent resident, they can just start their company because they have a SingPass, which enables them to just incorporate. But they need a company secretary. That's where after the incorporation, they could look for us, or alternatively, they could just start with us to save
Mhm.
them the trouble. That's one. And then I think that's one part of the questions is, if I have a 9 to 5 jobs and I want to do something on the side after 6 or after 5, is it better to have a company or without a company? I think that's the goal of it. I think I'll give a guideline. If the business is going to give you, say, extra of $10,000,
Mhm.
$10,000 of profit and taxable, and you need to report tax because it's 10,000 and above, or you should report tax anyway. But the 10,000 will be a threshold to decide, is a deciding factor, because you have your personal, your employment income, let's say is 100,000, just for example, 100,000. So you pay about maybe 8.5%, let's say 8,005, for
Right.
example. And then for another $10,000 of profit, not profit from a business, you become 110,000,
Mhm.
So altogether, you may need to pay extra of $2,000, $2,000. So if you need to pay tax of $2,000 extra because of your day job and your Amazon business, then you're better off with a company. The reason is fairly simple, because for a new company, for the first 3 years, uh, the first 100,000 is tax free. So you have still your day job. Anything you earn up to 100,000 with Amazon is totally tax free,
Okay. And
and
this
you
is
can
not profit. This is sales, overall
profit,
sales. Oh, 100,000
pure
profit.
profit. Yeah. So
Okay.
you have 1 million sales,
Yeah.
100,000 profit, and that's it. So
Okay.
having a company, usually for a company that is profit about 10,000, would really make sense, because the cost of maintaining the company is 2 to 3,000 annually.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
with
good
us.
advice.
Yeah.
So, what are the
Yeah.
different types of companies that can be incorporated?
I think in Singapore, actually companies, when you specifically name companies which is private limited,
Yeah.
there's actually one type only, which is private
Okay.
limited. That's all.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's just that sometimes it's called subsidiary, sometimes it's called even branch or etc. But
Yeah,
in
like
a
sole
nutshell,
proprietorship and all of those things.
okay, generally I think you just break them down into three types: sole proprietorship, which is a one-man show;
Yeah.
partnership, it's you and him or her, or more people; and then private limited. Private limited is, you can have as yourself or as many as possible, and there's a separate legal entity, I would say. Yeah. And to give you a good guide for Amazon, I think don't go for partnership because when there's two people, there's always conflict as it goes on. If the sales, I'll say simply, if the sales is more than 10,000 per year, and you can see that there's profit and etc., you should switch to private limited.
Okay.
Yeah, you can start off with sole proprietorship, but I think once the sales hit 10K and above, you feel that I don't mind paying. I mean, the cost of maintaining a company is $2,000 to $3,000. I can save. I can save through tax. So then just go for private limited.
Okay. One of the other things that I think small businesses always struggle with is accounting. And that's something that I'm dreading now.
Okay.
So do you have any tips for small businesses on how to manage, their accounting?
I think the takeaway, like for Amazon, which we have a few Amazon or online business, which is a good thing because everything you sell online, you use Stripe, I think that's a word, the company, or credit cards or anything.
Yeah.
So you can just click and say, during this year, how much sales I made.
Yeah.
So that will conclude your sales. And then what is the expense? And it's usually advertisement, which you can click on your Facebook and Google AdWords. And then after that, let me think, the products you buy,
Yeah.
which is also purely, most likely online. And it will solve all your accounting problems, the major costs. So it comes down into the small little part, like accounting fees, your corpsec fee, your law fees, and etc. My suggestion is always to use the bank statement
Okay.
as a guide. Use your bank statement and how much you pay. Everything is recorded in the bank, and then just print it out. Take a pencil or pen. This is for what. This is for what. So that your accountants can do the bookkeeping end of the year. For Amazon, I mean, even for Amazon Player, right, or any online, my judgment call is if it's more than 100,000, sales, then maybe you require a monthly accounting.
Okay.
The reason is simple because everything is online. I mean, all the costs and sales are. So if you're quite structured, you can print it out. Even 1 million sales, you really don't really need an accountant or accounts on a monthly basis.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And also, can you tell us a little bit about GST? Because I think that's something that I've heard people ask about in my community as well. And as Amazon sellers, e-commerce sellers, do we need to apply for GST? And what is the? Because we also do things like Facebook ads and digital marketing, and so
Okay.
do we need to apply for a GST number? And when do we need to do
Okay.
that?
I think GST is sales tax.
Yeah.
So I'll speak in a more Singapore context first.
Yes.
Okay, if you have a Singapore company, if your sales is less than $1 million in a calendar year, you do not need to register GST.
Okay.
You do not need to. So anything is 1 million, it become a compulsory to do it.
Okay.
Okay. So having a GST number would simply means this for a Singapore businessman who trade in Singapore primarily first. Whatever you pay for GST, you can claim it back from the tax office. But at the same time, which also means that whatever invoice you charge people, you collect GST. So end of the day, you are paying someone GST and you're collecting GST. And then every 3 months, you'll net it off and you'll tell IRAS, I collected more, so I pay you back.
Okay.
If I pay more than I collected, then IRAS, please claim, please pay the difference to me.
Right.
Basically, you are like a tax collector for
Mm.
IRAS, if you think
Okay.
carefully. So, okay, that is the local context. And after you're a GST registered company, then you think you have to tell IRAS, for example, your sales is more than 1 million. IRAS, what happened is this. My sales is over 1 million. Let's say it's $10 million. My sales is 10 million. I'm a GST, blah, blah, blah. So the bottom line is now 90% of my sales is outside Singapore. The goods never come here straight away from India. Manufacturer goes to US, go to anywhere but Singapore.
Yeah.
There's only $1 million is in Singapore. So IRAS will say, okay, I give you the blessing. So 90% of it, you don't need to pay GST. You don't even need to invoice people GST, so you don't collect GST. Anything that landed or is being transacted, goods is being delivered, goods and services is being delivered in the land of Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, the guideline is you have to pay GST. You have to
Okay.
invoice people with GST. Yeah, that's the general guideline.
Okay, that makes sense.
And also recently, the latest update is that by Australia, because there's so much sales going on online.
Yeah.
In the past, they just forget about it and say, it's too difficult to track you guys or anything online sales. But we're seeing that GST is being implemented already in some country, even it's online.
Yeah, even in the US, like there's sales tax, and each state has different sales tax structures and
Yes,
everything. So yeah, it's getting quite complicated now for online sellers as well, I think.
yes, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
I think Australia is the first one who started, and they say anything that Amazon, you have to pay us tax as well, although it's online or etc.
Yeah.
But it takes a while to really being implemented in Singapore or elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for the takeaway, just now what I've said is good enough, and I think let's stick to that first.
Okay. Cool. So let's talk about the coronavirus and COVID-19. How is that affecting your business at all, or do you see any other effect of the disruption that's going on in Singapore?
I think the COVID virus is the in thing now, the topic of the world.
Unfortunately.
So yeah, unfortunately, but I think
Yeah.
the answer is yes. I think
Yeah.
you'll just affect everybody. I think I think the number one effect is the emotion. To
Mm.
start a company, it's to be from an employee to employer or a boss of your own is already a big emotional step. Plus
Right.
the COVID. Oh man, all the risks. What should I do? Oh, let's stop being a boss. Let's
Yeah.
stop the daydreaming one side first and get to work. Let's do it next year.
Mm.
So I think it's a yes. But on the flip side, on the flip side, I've been interviewing all the entrepreneurs for 10 years. My take is that your company or most company will not be able to pay out good bonus because of the COVID virus around the world. I mean, around the world,
Yeah.
banks and etc. And if you remove your fear and think logically, maybe this is the best time to start a business,
Mm.
especially online business. I think number one, people stay home more,
True.
and when they stay home, they do after watching all the TVs and all the things, household things, they'll pick up their mobile phones and they do shopping.
Yeah, that's true.
They just do shopping. You see, so for Amazon wannabes or businessmen who really want to start a business, maybe you can see this crisis as an opportunity.
Mm. Yeah, I'm also
Yeah,
seeing that like some people are, whose jobs are being affected. Maybe their salaries are being reduced, or they've been asked to leave. So they are looking for other opportunities, and this is something that is relatively lower barrier to entry. E-commerce and Amazon. So yeah, I do see more people, kind of being more interested in this. And it's interesting that you mentioned, people are on their phones and they're shopping, because another thing that's becoming popular nowadays is social e-commerce. So even when you're on Facebook, you're seeing ads, for products that you can buy. So shopping is everywhere. It's not only on the Amazon website or, on the Amazon app. It's everywhere you go.
YouTube
Instagram,
as
YouTube.
well.
Yeah,
I
everywhere.
see a spike. I mean, I play with my phone at night when I see
Yeah,
basketball. So I can see the spike. I can see that, hey,
yeah,
buy this, buy that, buy this. I'm like, I buy enough already.
yeah.
But you
Awesome.
can see that. But I really think it's a good time.
Yeah,
Even for small players, Amazon, because I think once, like, if you're new, for example, if you're new, your cost is generally lower. I
right.
mean, it's your time cost. You have not hire 101 people to help you to do design, etc.
True.
So every $1 is straight in the pocket and it's pure effort by yourself. Yeah, I think considering the COVID virus, the job market is not going to be good.
Mm,
Everybody stays home. I think it's a quite a perfect storm
mm.
to start your business. This is the right time. This is my take. Anyway, I
Awesome.
started my business right after financial crisis in
Oh, is it?
2008. The stock market just collapsed and I have tendered my resignation already. So there's no way of going
so,
back.
so you can take it back.
Yeah, I can't take it back. So I tendered, I planned everything. The stock market collapsed. Yeah, I can't remember. I think yeah, October 2008. It was terrible. Like the banks was just, it was scary. Every day
Yeah.
in the office we were just like, hey, that's it, man. No jobs. I said, yeah, I resign. Tell me about it.
Okay,
And
well, you
you
made it.
survive.
It's yeah, you made it, and you're doing so well. It's your 10th year anniversary
Yeah,
this time, right, of the company. So
yeah, it's
congratulations for
about
that.
it's sure.
Yeah.
So I'm the
Awesome.
same like you guys. So I
Yeah.
start at home and then move to office and blah blah blah. Set up the private limited thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and what I like about working with you is that you're able to understand entrepreneurs and what fears they have and what challenges they face. So when I talked to you the first time, I felt very confident and comfortable dealing with you, because I know that you're in the same boat and you've been through the same process and you can really understand what an entrepreneur goes through. So
yeah.
yeah.
I guess. Thanks a lot. I think the I think 95 or even in fact 95% of our clients are foreigners living in
Okay.
Singapore or foreigners living in foreign land.
Yeah.
So me myself have lived overseas as a foreigner, so I kind of understand what they went through. And obviously for non-accountant, I usually have to say things that comfort them.
Right.
And it's really that simple. It's not that difficult. It's just that people doesn't like to do it. That's why
Yeah.
they avoid. But you can look for us and they'll be online as well. And we're also online
Yeah.
these days.
So, what's the best way for people to get more information about your website and your services?
Um, we are in, I think we are in YouTube, we are in Instagram,
Okay.
we are in Facebook, we are in
Everywhere.
Google search. Yeah. So just put Paul High Page and that's it. And then basically you can see us anywhere.
Okay. And then
Uh,
just reach out. I think it's very easy to schedule an appointment or a call on the website
when you come to
itself.
our website,
Yeah.
even nowadays, when you come to our website, on the top bar, there's a WhatsApp. You can just WhatsApp us.
Okay. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
easiest. I guess we'll also put in the WhatsApp number in the show notes on this podcast for just to make it easy for people to reach you.
Sure.
Cool.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. This has been wonderful. And I look forward to continuing working with you in the next
Sure.
few years. And
Sure.
yeah, thanks a lot for helping me and all of the other entrepreneurs.
Okay. See you
All
guys.
right. Thanks a
Bye.
lot. Bye.